I can still see the look on my daughter's face the moment she opened that birthday box for my parents, a look I'll never forget. One second, she was all giggles and excitement, and the next, she just froze, holding up a blue dress with someone else's name stitched across the front. "Mom, what is this?" she whispered. And suddenly, I was 8 years old again, standing in the corner of my own childhood, wondering why I never quite belonged. Have you ever felt like your family keeps rewriting your story, leaving you out of the pages that matter most? Before I dive into my story, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you'd consider subscribing to my channel, it would mean the world to me and help me keep sharing more stories like this. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Evelyn, and I have always believed that the smallest moments can change the course of a life. The morning it all began, I was standing in my kitchen, sunlight pouring through the window, the smell of coffee drifting through the air, and Harper, my daughter, was humming to herself as she colored at the table. She was 8, with a wild imagination and a laugh that could fill a room. I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt, how ordinary, how safe. Then the doorbell rang, and I found a brown package on the porch, the kind my parents always sent for birthdays and holidays. The handwriting on the label instantly familiar, looping and careful, the way my mother always wrote when she wanted to be sure something arrived safely. I brought the box inside, set it on the table next to Harper's half-finished drawing, and told her she could open it. She grinned, wiped her hands on her pajama pants, and tore into the wrapping with the kind of excitement only children can muster. She loved getting mail, even if it was just a card or a small trinket. I watched her fingers work at the tape, her tongue poking out in concentration, and for a moment, I felt a pang of nostalgia for my own childhood, for the days when a package from my parents meant something simple and good. Harper pulled out a dress, sky blue and soft, with tiny silver stars embroidered along the hem. For a moment, she looked delighted, holding it up to her chest and spinning in a slow circle, the fabric catching the light. Then she stopped, her smile fading as she stared at the front of the dress. I saw her lips move, but no sound came out. She looked up at me, her eyes wide and uncertain, and whispered, "Mom, what is this?" I took the dress from her, my hands suddenly cold. There, stitched in careful cursive above the heart, was a name, Lila, not Harper, not my daughter's name, a name that belonged to someone else, someone we never talked about. The room felt suddenly colder, as if a window had been opened in the middle of winter. Harper watched me, waiting for an answer, but I could not find the words. I told her to go finish getting ready for school, my voice softer than I intended. She hesitated, then nodded, leaving the dress in my hands as she disappeared down the hallway. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the name, my mind racing back through years I had tried so hard to forget. I could feel the weight of old memories pressing in, the ache of being overlooked, the sting of being compared to someone I could never be. The phone rang before I could even put the dress down. My mother's voice was bright, almost too cheerful, asking if Harper liked her present. I could hear my father in the background, his laughter forced, and I realized with a sinking feeling that this was not a mistake. They had sent this dress on purpose. I told my mother that Harper was getting ready for school and that I would call her back later. She pressed, wanting to know if Harper had tried it on, if she liked the color, if it fit. I said nothing about the name. I hung up, my hands shaking. That night, after Harper was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with the dress spread out in front of me. The fabric was soft, the embroidery perfect, the kind of detail my mother always insisted on. I remembered another dress, years ago, pink instead of blue, but with the same careful stitching, the same stars along the hem. That dress had belonged to Lila, my older sister, the one who could do no wrong. Every birthday, every holiday, every family gathering, it was always about Lila. I was the quiet one, the one who did not make a fuss, the one who learned to disappear into the background. I thought I had left all that behind when I moved out, started my own family, built a life that was mine. But sitting there with that dress, I realized how easily the past could find its way back in. I remembered the way my mother used to brush Lila's hair, the way my father would clap the loudest at her recitals, the way I would stand at the edge of the room, holding a juice box, waiting for someone to notice me. I remembered the birthdays where my name was barely mentioned, the holidays where my gifts were afterthoughts, the endless comparisons that made me feel small. The next morning, I drove Harper to school in silence. She glanced at me a few times, but I could tell she was afraid to ask about the dress. I dropped her off, watched her walk into the building, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders, and felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I wanted to protect her from all of this, from the weight of family history, from the pain of being overlooked. I promised myself I would not let her become another shadow in someone else's story. After I got home, I called my parents. My mother answered on the first ring, her voice tight. I asked her why she had sent the dress, why she had put Lila's name on it. She laughed, said it was just a dress, that I was being too sensitive, that Harper would not care. I told her that Harper did care, that she had been confused and hurt. My mother sighed, said I was always making things more difficult than they needed to be. My father got on the line, told me to let it go, that it was just a mix-up, that I should be grateful they remembered Harper's birthday at all. I hung up, feeling more alone than I had in years. That afternoon, I picked Harper up from school. She was quiet on the drive home, her eyes fixed on the window. When we got inside, she asked if she could go play in her room. I nodded, watching her disappear down the hallway. I sat on the couch, the dress still folded in its bag, and tried to make sense of what had happened. I thought about calling my sister Claire, but we had not spoken in months. She had always been closer to Lila, always seemed to understand the way our family worked in a way I never could. That evening, as I was making dinner, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother. She wanted to know if I was coming over for Sunday dinner, if I would bring Harper, if I could pick up a few things from the store on my way. I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the screen. I thought about all the times I had said yes, all the times I had put their needs before my own, all the times I had tried to earn their approval. I put the phone down without replying. The days that followed felt heavy, as if the air in our house had thickened. Harper seemed to sense the tension, though she never asked about the dress again. She spent more time in her room, drawing or reading, her laughter quieter than before. I tried to keep our routine steady, making her favorite pancakes on Sunday mornings, walking her to school, reading together at night. But there was a new distance between us, a silence that neither of us knew how to fill. One afternoon, as I was folding laundry, Harper came to me with a drawing. She had sketched two girls, one with long brown hair and a blue dress, the other with short hair and a red shirt. Above them, she had written our names Harper and Evelyn. I smiled and pulled her into a hug, feeling a wave of gratitude and sadness all at once. "That's us," she said softly, and I nodded, holding her close. In that moment, I promised myself again that I would do everything I could to protect her from the kind of loneliness I had known. But the past has a way of creeping back in, no matter how hard you try to keep it out. A few days later, I received a letter from my mother. The envelope was thick, her handwriting careful and familiar. I hesitated before opening it, my heart pounding inside. She had written pages about family, about forgiveness, about how hard it was to lose Lila, and how she had always tried to do her best for both her daughters. She never mentioned the dress or Harper, or the way her choices had hurt me. She ended the letter with a single line, "You are still my daughter, no matter what." I read the letter twice, then folded it and put it away in a drawer. I did not reply. That night, I sat on the porch, the letter heavy in my lap, and thought about all the ways I had tried to earn my mother's love, all the ways I had failed. I wondered if Lila had ever felt invisible, or if she had always known she was the favorite. The questions circled in my mind, but I let them drift away with the evening breeze. The next morning, Harper asked if we could bake cookies. We spent the day in the kitchen, flour dusting the counters, chocolate chips scattered everywhere. She laughed as she tried to crack an egg, her hands sticky with dough. And for a while, the world felt simple again. We ate the cookies warm from the oven, sitting on the back steps, watching the sun set behind the trees. Harper leaned her head on my shoulder, her hair smelling of sugar and vanilla, and I felt a peace I had not known in years. But peace is fragile. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, the phone rang. I let it go to voicemail, but my mother's voice filled the kitchen, sharp and insistent. She said she needed to see me. That family was too important to throw away over a misunderstanding. I deleted the message without listening to the end. A few days later, Bulletar called. Her voice was tired, strained. She said our parents were selling the house, that Lila had moved back in, that everything was changing. She asked if I wanted to come by, to say goodbye to the house and to see everyone one last time. I told her I would think about it, but I knew I would not go. That house was never really mine. It was a place where I had learned to be small, to be quiet, to disappear. Harper started asking questions, small at first, then more direct. She wanted to know why we did not see Grandma and Grandpa anymore, why Claire only visited for a few hours at a time, why I seemed sad sometimes when I thought she was not looking. I tried to answer honestly, but gently. I told her that families are complicated, that sometimes people hurt each other even when they do not mean to, that it is okay to walk away from people who make you feel small. She listened, her eyes serious, and nodded as if she understood. The seasons changed, and with them, the shape of our lives. Harper grew taller, her hair longer, her laughter louder. She made new friends at school, joined the art club, brought home paintings of animals and landscapes that she taped to the walls of her room. I found a new job, one that let me spend more time at home, more time with her. Our days settled into a rhythm, quiet but steady, and I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, we were healing. One afternoon, as I was sorting through old boxes in the attic, I found a photograph I had not seen in years. It was from a birthday party. Lila in the center, her arms thrown wide, a crown of paper flowers on her head. I was off to the side, half out of the frame, my face turned away from the camera. I stared at the photo for a long time, tracing the edges with my thumb, remembering the way it felt to be on the outside looking in. I put the photo back in the box, closed the lid, and carried it downstairs. I did not need to keep it anymore. That night, I told Harper a story about when I was a little girl, about the time I tried to bake a cake for my mother's birthday and forgot to add sugar. She laughed, her eyes bright, and asked if I had ever made mistakes as a mom. I told her I made them every day, but that I was trying, always trying, to do better. She hugged me, her arms tight around my waist, and whispered, "You're the best mom." I held her close, letting her words fill the empty spaces inside me. The next morning, I woke to the sound of rain tapping against the windows. Harper was already up, making breakfast for us both, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She handed me a cup of coffee, her smile shy, and I felt a surge of gratitude for this life we had built together. Imperfect, but ours. As the months passed, the distance between me and my parents grew. I heard from Claire now and then. Short calls, quick updates. But we never talked about the past. Never talked about Lila. Never talked about the dress. It was as if we had all agreed to keep our pain private, to let the silence do the talking. One evening, as I was tucking Harper into bed, she asked if I missed my family. I thought about her question, about all the ways I had tried to belong, about all the ways I had been left out. I told her that I missed the idea of family, the hope that things could be different, but that I did not miss the way I felt when I was with them. She nodded, her eyes heavy with sleep, and I kissed her forehead, whispering that I loved her more than anything. The years slipped by, quietly at first, then faster than I could have imagined. Harper grew into a teenager, her world expanding beyond our little house, her dreams bigger than I could have ever hoped for her. She joined the school choir, made friends who filled our home with laughter and music. And sometimes, when I watched her from the kitchen, I saw a confidence in her that I had never known at her age. She still asked about my parents sometimes, but less often, the questions softer, less urgent. I answered as honestly as I could, telling her that sometimes loving someone means letting them go, even if it hurts. I found myself thinking about my own childhood less and less. The memories were still there, but they no longer stung the way they once did. I could look at old photographs without feeling that familiar ache, could remember birthdays and holidays without the bitterness that used to follow me everywhere. I realized that I had built something new, something better, for both myself and for Harper. One spring afternoon, as we were cleaning out the garage, Harper found a box of my old things. She pulled out a faded notebook, its cover decorated with stickers and doodles from when I was her age. She flipped through the pages, laughing at my childish handwriting, and asked if I had always wanted to be a mom. I told her the truth. I had not always known what I wanted, but I knew I wanted to be different, to give her the love and attention I had longed for as a child. She hugged me, her arms strong and sure, and I felt a sense of peace settle over me. That summer, Claire called to say that our parents had moved to a smaller house in another town. Leila was still living with them, still searching for something she could not seem to find. Claire sounded tired, worn down by years of trying to keep the family together. She asked if I wanted to visit, to see the new house, to try again. I thanked her, but told her I was not ready. Maybe one day, I said, but not now. Harper started high school that fall, her days filled with new classes, new friends, new challenges. I watched her navigate the world with a grace and strength that amazed me. She was not afraid to speak her mind, to stand up for herself, to take up space. I saw in her all the things I had wished for myself, and I knew that I had done something right. There were still moments when the past crept in, when I wondered if things could have been different, if I could have tried harder, forgiven more, held on longer. But those moments passed, replaced by the steady rhythm of our life together. I learned to let go of the need for approval, to trust that I was enough, just as I was. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Harper turned to me and asked if I was happy. I thought about her question, about everything we had been through, about the family we had lost and the one we had built. I told her that I was truly and deeply happy. She smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder, and I knew that she believed me. Now, when I watch Harper dance around our kitchen, her laughter echoing through the house, I realize how far we've come from the shadows of old family stories. There are still days when the past tugs at me, when I wonder if things could have been different, but I no longer let those questions define me. I've learned that sometimes choosing yourself is the bravest thing you can do, even if it means letting go of the people you once called home. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved just to find your own peace? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Thank you for listening and for being here with me.